All right, we're starting the week off with something a little wacky, something I wish we weren't actually having to start the week off. The New York Times Editorial Board has written an article called Ease Up on the Executive Actions, Joe, with the subtitle President Biden is right to not let his agenda be held hostage, but legislating through Congress is a better path. And in this article, the New York Times editorial board says correctly that, quote, a week into his presidency, Mr. Biden has issued a raft of executive orders and other actions. Already, he is committed to rejoining the Paris Climate Change Agreement, ended the Muslim travel ban, canceled the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, rescinded funding for and halted construction on the wall at the southern border, reaffirmed the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, mandated mask wearing on federal grounds, moved to end the federal government's reliance on private prisons, reversed the ban on transgender military service, and called for agency assessments aimed at advancing racial equity, just to name a few. The coming days will bring more such action. But this isn't that good, they say. And they're concerned, they say, not just because executive orders don't create law and can be changed by future presidents, which is true, but because, quote, executive actions are far more ephemeral and easily discarded than legislation, which can set up a whipsaw effect as each president scrambles to undo the work of his predecessor. Just as Mr. Trump set about reversing as many of President Barack Obama's directives as possible, Mr. Biden is now working to reverse many of Mr. Trump's reversals. With executive orders, there is always another presidential election just a few years off, threatening to upend everything. This is one of the silliest New York Times editorials I've seen. First of all, these executive orders are a good start until permanent legislation can be passed, if it can. And the if right now is arguably more important than it's ever been, given that there is a Republican Party that doesn't even pretend to care about policy. What did Marjorie Taylor Greene run on other than just Trumpism and owning the libs? What did Lauren Boebert run on other than Trumpism and owning the libs? This is one of the 2-year periods during which Democrats have control of the House, Senate, and White House, and they may have no choice but to go at everything by themselves. So we'll talk more about that. Secondly, these executive orders are a signal that hopefully Joe Biden is going to do everything he can of the things he promised to do, regardless of whether he has Republican support or not. And remember, he was elected based on the things he promised to do. And number three, this reeks of status quoism from the New York Times. The New York Times editorial board doesn't like that Joe Biden isn't using the powers he has after being elected by voters because it's too much change. What? And fourth, much of what Joe Biden is doing isn't really a dramatic change anyway, beyond getting us back to the pre-Trump situation. So in a way, like I hate to say it, but Joe Biden's executive orders are, in a sense, getting us back to the status quo that was the status quo before Trump, but the New York Times doesn't like it. Now, hopefully there will be some follow-up from the New York Times editorial board about how Biden can't get a damn thing done with Republican help. In the next 3 months or 6 months, we'll see, because of their incipient obstructionism. I look forward to the New York Times editorial board writing that op-ed to provide more context to this. And then just the very last element of hypocrisy here. There is a general hypocrisy about Biden's nascent presidency, which is that simultaneously we are hearing Biden hasn't yet done all the stuff he promised to do. We're 12 days in. Biden hasn't yet done it all, but he's also doing too much with too many executive orders. He's creating too many commissions. He's proposing too many things. Come on, guys. And the most important signal sent by Biden's administration so far, based on his actions, is that he's determined to set the agenda, not Mitch McConnell. And I love that. I will and do agree. I will agree and disagree, better said, with things that Joe Biden will do. But the fact that Joe Biden is sending a signal that it will be his agenda and not Mitch McConnell's is something I am very much behind. And, you know, there are people who are saying, well, Joe Biden should have worked more with Republicans on some of the things in those early executive orders. Right. Give me the list of the Republicans that are eager to reverse the trans military ban. Who are the Republicans Biden could have worked on with that? Would he have had great bipartisan support rather than doing that by executive order, instead working with Republicans? Give me a break. What Republicans were going to get in line for that? The idea of lecturing Biden on using executive orders after what the country endured for the last 4 years would be hilarious if it weren't sad. And one really final important element here. The stuff Joe Biden is doing via executive order is really popular with the people. We actually have a list. And when you look at this, you see that banning workplace discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, there's 83% support for that. OK, when you look at committing to a government-wide focus on racial equity, 77% support. Requiring masks on federal property, 75% support. Continuing suspension of federal student loan repayments, which he did via EO, 68% support, and on and on and on. These are popular things. Were Joe Biden pushing through via executive order things that had 10% support or 15% support in this country, legally, you wouldn't have any different argument, but you would have a stronger argument that Biden is not ruling by the will of the people. He ran on doing this stuff. This stuff is popular. There's no indication Republicans have any interest in helping Joe Biden do this stuff. So he's doing popular things he ran on via executive order. Give me a break. I hope we'll see a follow-up op-ed from the New York Times Editorial Board, providing the context that it was either do it this way or don't do it at all, and that these things are popular with Americans. Without that, I don't really even understand the point of this editorial board piece, unless it's simply just to point to stuff and say we don't like it. If you ever feel like you just don't have enough time to read all the books you want to read, you have to check out one of my favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist takes thousands of popular nonfiction books and distills each one down into an ebook or audiobook that you can get through in just 15 minutes, where you're getting all the key takeaways from the book. Just imagine how you'll be able to expand your horizons and knowledge by being able to soak up all of the important insights from 10 different books in an afternoon. Obviously, it's perfect for exposing yourself to a new book you otherwise wouldn't have time for, or you can use it to revisit a book you've already read, or use it to preview a book before you buy the full version and read it. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way. And it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.